Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. Or if you're just tuning in now, welcome back to the show, or welcome to the show. My name is Gabe Hollenby. I'm a developer advocate here at Amazon Web Services. I hope you are all having a wonderful virtual reInvent this year. It's something different, which is kind of nice. For this segment of What's Next, we've got two lovely demos and feature launches to talk about. I'm joined by Rob and Mark. Do you guys just quickly want to introduce yourself before we get going? Rob?
Great. Rob Wilson. I'm a product manager on the Amazon S3 team.
And Mark?
And I'm Mark Kalis, also a product manager on Amazon S3.
Cool. And so it should come as no surprise to our viewers. In this segment, we're going to talk about storage features, both related to Amazon S3. If you're not familiar with Amazon S3, it's one of my favorite services. Stands for Simple Storage Service. It's basically virtually unlimited cloud storage, and it works at the object level. It's object storage, which means you put data in at some key, and you access that data. It could be a file, it could be just binary data, it could even be parts of a file. You can get back that data along with associated metadata whenever you want. And there's all sorts of wonderful features along with it: encryption, versioning, replication, all of the stuff you would probably expect from a really robust cloud storage solution. And actually, speaking of replication, that's what our first feature that we want to talk about in this segment is. So, Rob, I understand that we've had replication, of course, in Amazon S3 buckets. A bucket is the construct we talk about, the thing that you put your files or your data into. So we've had replication for a while. What's the new feature related to replication that we want to talk about?
Absolutely. Thanks, Gabe. So S3 replication now gives you the ability to replicate data to multiple buckets simultaneously. So you have the flexibility to do that across regions or within the same AWS region. And with that flexibility to replicate to multiple targets, you can now think about how to store your data in a way that aligns best with how your company operates. So that could be storing data across multiple regions so that everyone has equal access to it, low latency access. Or it could also be things like storing multiple copies for disaster recovery purposes. So maybe storing some of those copies in Glacier. So you have the flexibility to do that. And you can also use CloudWatch metrics to monitor the progress of replication. So you can not only replicate to multiple destinations, but have the ability to look at the progress and see that visibility for each one individually.
Awesome. And I just want to unpack some terms for our viewers. So a region is if you understand nothing else, you should probably understand a region. So I want to make sure people get that. A region is a collection of data centers in a particular area in the world that we talk about being a place where S3 and other AWS services are offered from. And so, as Rob said, you oftentimes want to replicate data from one region to another. A region, for example, like in the eastern part of the United States, or the western part of the United States for our US viewers, or we have regions all over the world. But you might want to replicate from one side of the country to the other, both so that data can be closer to the end users who are going to consume that data, or for disaster recovery purposes, like you said. But as you mentioned, also we can also replicate to different buckets inside the same region as the source bucket now. So that's super neat. There's basically wherever you want to replicate to, multiple places, no problem. So that sounds useful, but maybe you can give me some more details about why should customers use S3 replication?
Yeah, the key use case, especially for the multiple destinations, is having the ability to keep multiple copies of that data. So we've talked to a lot of customers that have software install files and things like that, where they want to have the same configuration across all the regions. They want to have the same and latest update to all their end users. So being able to send that copy to maybe 5, 10 other buckets around the globe is a really easy and convenient thing to do. The other thing I want to highlight with S3 replication is it's scalable. It's elastic, so it can scale to petabytes of data. It gives you the ability to just set it and forget it. That's one of the things we think about when we design replication and set it up for customers. Is it's a configuration that you set up for a bucket, and once it's up and running, there's no ongoing management for the end user. So talked about metrics to monitor progress, but everything you're doing with replication, once it's set up, it's hands off from the end user perspective, giving you a lot of flexibility in using replication, but also low management overhead. And one of the things I wanted to highlight for our users that are familiar with S3 replication previously is that with the multiple destination support, you have all the flexibility you had before with replication. So that could be unique and different storage classes for each of those destination copies, different AWS accounts. You could turn on replication time control for some of those destinations and not all. It's really about how you're going to use the data and how your end users are using the data that would guide those different configuration decisions.
Cool. Another term I want to unpack there, you talked about storage classes. Maybe you can just explain that. It's a core concept of S3 that maybe not everyone is familiar with. Certainly, you can even use S3 and not even not make a decision about storage classes because we have a default class, and you may not even know about the different ways you can store data on S3. Do you want to just talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, the choice of different storage classes in S3 is really important to customers to think about because we have storage classes that are optimized for frequently accessed data. So maybe it's short-lived, maybe it's used by a lot of users, over the course of a month. But as your data is less frequently accessed, we have infrequent access storage classes like standard infrequent access, one zone infrequent access. That's a lower price point and optimized for that infrequent access pattern. Then you have storage classes like Glacier and Glacier Deep Archive for archive workloads. I might have compliant data that I need to hold on to for years, but if I don't need it back immediately, I'm going to get a lower price point to store it in Glacier. And then Gabe, one of the things that came out a couple of years ago that customers are loving is intelligent tiering. So intelligent tiering gives you the goodness of all these different storage classes, and it's one decision the customer is making where they say, I want to put my data in intelligent tiering, and then as that data is not accessed for a period of time, it can go to an infrequent access tier, an archive tier, and a deep archive tier. So tons of flexibility within one storage class to get all those different price points and to save on storage automatically over time.
Yeah, pro tip, exactly what Rob just said. If you like the idea of cost optimizing for your different access patterns, but you don't like the idea of manually deciding for each piece of data that you're storing, just pick intelligent tiering and let the service handle it for you because it'll do a pretty good job. And it's, again, one less thing you have to manage yourself. A lot of customers love intelligent tiering, including me. I'm a customer. I keep my data on S3 for my own personal stuff. So let's talk about how do we set up replication. I think that's an important question, especially for multiple destinations. You said it works the same, but maybe you can give me some more details.
Absolutely. So setting up replications is easy as, you'll have your source bucket. That's where you start, but you're choosing a destination bucket. You're choosing the destination storage class. And for a lot of these options, you have the option to say, well, just use the same storage class as you used in the source bucket. Or you can say, actually, I want all the destination copies to be stored in Glacier Deep Archive. So you have that flexibility as you're setting it up. You're also choosing things like maybe storing in a different AWS account in the destination, enabling replication time control, which I mentioned earlier, but I should give you a little more information about. So replication time control gives you a predictable replication latency backed by an SLA. So if you want predictable replication that completes in 15 minutes or less because you have compliant workloads or you have another team that's relying on that data to land at a particular time, replication time control is something you can enable for any of those destinations. And then once everything's up and running, you can then set up those metrics and notifications that we talked about. That was a recent launch as well, so early in the November time period. And I'll highlight the replication notifications at this point, because when you set up replication, you want to make sure everything's working perfectly, the configuration's set up, the permissions are right. And if for any reason they're not, you can set up those notifications to get failure notifications. So Gabe, you go through step by step, set up replication. If something's off, you get a failure notification with the reason, correct that, get the configuration up and running, and then you're good to go from that point on with replication. So quite easy to set up. You can set it up in the console, API, SDKs, or CloudFormation if you're using that already today.
Awesome. Well, that was actually a pretty great rundown. But just to really tie it home for our viewers, I think we have a demo that you want to show for us. Is that right?
Absolutely. It all comes to life when you look at the demo.
Cool. So let's get ready to show the demo. We'll bring up the demo.
Cool. All right. So we got the video loading up on the screen for everyone. And
perfect. I see it. Go ahead.
Let's roll. So we're in the console now. I've got my management tab. So you got a few different features you can see here with S3. And we're looking specifically at my replication rules. I enabled 4 new rules. I'm replicating, to Gabe's point earlier, East Coast, West Coast, copies in Virginia, copies in Oregon. And you see I have different properties. Specifically, we can look here and say that replication time control, we turned it on for 2 destinations, but not for 2 others. It's all about what works for you and what each of these copies needs. And now I go over here and look at metrics in this bucket. So down here, we see that we have replication metrics. We have them for operations pending, replication latency, and then the bytes pending replication. And because I have 4 different destinations specified, we're able to see metrics unique to each of those destinations, giving us kind of the perfect level of granularity on what we're looking at. So there we're looking at 2 of them, operations pending and replication latency. You see that replication latency can vary. It may vary with object size, but typically you're seeing something that's on the order of just minutes. Bytes pending replication down the bottom. Once again, you might have a large batch upload to a bucket, so you see that bytes pending go up, but as replication proceeds and grabs all those new objects to your bucket, you'll see that drop back down to 0 or near 0. So great visibility here with these metrics. And with that, I'll go back to us.
Yeah, nice. So I think this is actually the perfect segue then. I'm going to pause at the end of this. When we wrap up, I'll ask you where viewers can learn more, but let's pause on replication now. And since we were just looking at graphs and dashboards, let's continue that theme. The other feature that we recently launched is related to dashboarding for S3, right? So Mark, do you want to just tell me a little bit more? I think it's called Storage Lens, S3 Storage Lens. Tell me some more about it. What is it, and what does this bring to the table for customers?
Yeah, that's right, Gabe. I'm excited to talk to you about this today. We launched this on November 18th. It's called S3 Storage Lens. There's lots of great tweets about it. There's some good press, TechCrunch and others. So it's getting good response from customers. Storage Lens is a centralized dashboard to get visibility into your storage usage and activity. And it's built right into the console, so you can see everything in one place. And you can use this information to, 1, understand how much storage you have, and then 2, take action and make improvements to your storage. So you can optimize, make cost savings measures, and also improve data protections.
Okay. I mean, it sounds really great. Obviously, when I saw the blog post about this, I was like, wow, this is great. It's in some ways, it was more insight into what was going on in S3 than I had, but I didn't even know I wanted it till I saw it. And then I went, oh, this is great. So what inspired us to create S3 Storage Lens? I assume it was, customers saying we would like this insight that obviously I didn't realize I needed, but maybe other customers did.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like everything we do, we're working back from the customer, and we had some customers that were just struggling to get an understanding of how much storage they have, and to answer other kind of more granular questions about what are my top buckets, like how's my storage distributed across regions and storage classes. And in particular, we had a couple really large, sophisticated customers that had built their own homegrown solution, their own version of Lens internally, and they were aggregating log files and taking the S3 inventory reports and pulling that in. And they came to us and said, look, we've got some data here that we need, that we're producing on our own, but it's a lot of heavy lifting for us. And they wanted us to see if we could make that easier for them. And so that's, that was a big driver behind getting S3 Storage Lens built.
I mean, what you just touched on is the wonderful story that repeats over and over again with AWS, right? Where we see what we call undifferentiated heavy lifting that some customers have to do, that other customers are doing too, and nobody should have to do it because we can do it once and then everybody benefits, including me. So, right? It's great. We build something for some customers, but everybody gets access to it, and so we all benefit.
Exactly.
And so, why should I use Storage Lens then? What are the different audiences, or how are people going to get value out of it?
Yeah, so this is really one of those rare features. I know every product manager says this, but like I really think every customer needs this on some level, because it gives you just total bytes, total object count, some really basic stats that everybody should really know about how they're using S3. But then as far as like the customers that benefit most, it's really going to be the very large customers with shared data sets across dozens of regions, hundreds or thousands of buckets, and hundreds to thousands of prefixes. Those more distributed customers will benefit the most because frankly they just have so much storage and it's so all over the place that having that centralized visibility really enlightens them to realize like how much storage they actually have and how it's all configured and set up. Okay.
So maybe then also you can help position this for me. We have other S3 analytics and insights features before you mentioned, the inventory capability that we already had. So how does this differ from those, and what type of metrics am I going to see in S3 Storage Lens?
Yeah. So Storage Lens joins a few other features that we have in that kind of analytics and insights category of tooling within S3. And they're all designed to just make it easier for customers to analyze their storage, make improvements and optimizations. So the two other ones that are worth calling out are S3 inventory, which I mentioned before. And that's what you use to generate an object level report of all the objects in your bucket or in your overall account. And that's really still continues to be a very useful thing if you need to get granular object level details on your storage. And then we also offer storage class analysis, which is the second feature. And this is where you're doing a deep dive into a bucket to look at the access patterns and object ages within that bucket. And that's still a really great way to understand those access patterns in order to make a determination about the optimal storage class. So Lens would be the third one in this category. And Lens offers kind of a broader and more holistic view because it goes across the whole organization or just the whole account if you're not using organizations. And now it gives you that visibility to see everything. And then from there, you can dive in and use either inventory or storage class analysis on a per bucket basis as needed to go a level deeper in those different areas.
Okay. And, I'm interested to know what the specific types of metrics are and what the granularity of those looks like. But I think you have a demo, so maybe the demo will answer these questions for me. I'm probably just asking questions that are already answered in the demo. So do you want to just play the demo?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump over into this pre-recorded demo here. And
an S3 Storage Lens dashboard is automatically created for every customer account. You have the option to customize the default dashboard by upgrading to receive advanced metrics and recommendations, as well as enabling metrics export. You can also create additional custom dashboard views, including one for your entire AWS organization, specific regions, or buckets. The Storage Lens interactive dashboard shows a snapshot of your storage through the previous day, and you have the option to view up to 15 months of history. At a glance, you can view your most critical storage summary metrics or browse by category to see additional metrics related to cost efficiency, data protection, and activity use cases. With over 30 metrics, you can select a primary and secondary metric for deeper analysis. You can adjust the dashboard trend from a default view of 30 days to a longer time frame. Here, you can see a breakdown of your usage by storage class or by region. The top N module shows the top accounts, regions, buckets, and prefixes. By default, it shows the top 3 items, but you can adjust this to show up to 25 items. The S3 Storage Lens includes several different features to efficiently navigate the dashboard and to quickly home in on the insights you need. Select any value displayed in a chart to see additional info and apply a drill down to repaint the entire dashboard with a filter on that value. Alternatively, you can choose the Analyze by option and select a dimension, allowing you to move to a new page of the dashboard to analyze this value by a new dimension for more granular insights. Several different data visualizations are available, including bubble analysis, which allows you to see the relationship between 3 different metrics. Recommendations are displayed alongside metrics to emphasize outlier data points or to indicate opportunities to reduce costs or apply data protection best practices. From here, you can choose to access documentation or to take action in the console.
That's super cool. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that video. That definitely answered some of my questions. I think one of my favorite features is that we don't just show you the data, but we have those recommendations in place in some of the graphs as well and some of the charts. So I think that'll really help people who say, okay, what am I looking at and why should I care? Well, in some cases, the feature already will tell you why you should care and what you should do about it. And I think that's just tremendously helpful.
That's right.
So we get a built-in dashboard for S3 Storage Lens, but as I think the demo mentioned too, we can create new ones. How do I configure a new dashboard?
Yeah, so you have a default created dashboard at the account level, and you can go into, when you click on Storage Lens on the left-hand navigation, when you're on the S3 console, You'll see all your dashboards created there, and you click Create Dashboard there. And from there, you could create additional scoped dashboards that are scoped as broadly as organizations. So if you're using AWS Organizations, you just simply have to enable trusted access for your organization. You can also have someone that's using the management account for AWS Organizations. You can have them enable delegated access for your account. And that gives you the ability to create a dashboard across the whole organization as well. And so then you can go in, create that new dashboard at the org level. Alternatively, if you want a more finely scoped dashboard, you can scope it for individual regions or individual buckets. And that's really useful if you want to set up, for example, different dashboards for different teams. Maybe you have, the Europe team and the US team, or the front end team and the back end team, or different organizational structures like that. Each team can have their own separate dashboard there.
Nice. You also read my mind. I was going to ask about if this works with organizations. By the way, for viewers who don't know, organizations are a really powerful construct that let you aggregate accounts under a higher level concept of an org and organizational units, which is just really useful if you're working in a multi-account strategy, with most people are. Last question, because then we have to wrap up. How is Storage Lens priced?
Yeah, so there's a free tier of the product, and then there's a paid version. So that's the great thing here is that this is free for everybody. You can get roughly half of the metrics for free. So all of the usage metrics, so that you understand how much storage you have, characteristics of your storage, that's all included in the free version. With the paid version, which we call advanced metrics, you're going to get the addition of activity metrics. So that includes things like requests, gets, puts, etc. And then with the advanced metrics, you also get a deeper level of granularity down to prefix level. So prefix level is that next level down inside the bucket. You have kind of the folder structure there that you can parse that and see reporting on individual prefixes, which this is the first time within S3 that we produced metrics at that level of granularity. So it's really useful. And so the pricing for the paid version is 20 cents per million objects per month.
Okay.
So it's only charged for dashboards that have the advanced tier turned on. So you can have a mix of free and advanced dashboards. The ones that have advanced turned on are charged on a per object basis.
Got it. That's very clear. Thank you. So we need to wrap up. Let me ask you first, Mark, since we're talking about Storage Lens right now. If people want to learn more about this, where should they go? What should they follow up with?
Yeah, the best thing to do, because we've automatically created an account dashboard for all customers, go into Lens and start, check out your dashboard, start using the data. And then obviously we also recommend that you go check out the website documentation for Lens and have a chat with your account team if you have questions or feedback about using Storage Lens.
Great. And Rob, back to you, which we started at the top of this segment talking about multi-destination replication. If customers want to learn more about that, how do you recommend they do so?
Absolutely. We've got an AWS blog for multi-destination replication. We've also got the S3 developer guide with plenty of information about S3 replication in general and some of the other recent launches. And then you've got Replication feature page and our FAQs as well for more information.
Okay, awesome. Well, gentlemen, thank you both for a really informative session on, again, one of my favorite services. I'm super pleased with these, and I can't wait to see what the S3 team does next. So thanks to all of our viewers for watching. Stay tuned. We have more What's Next. We're not done with our coverage from reInvent. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.